Before we start, let me say that this video will contain potential spoilers for future Dune movies, so if you've not read the first 3 books of the Dune series by Frank Herbert, then please click off this video and go read them. Okay, with that out the way, so I've recently heard from industry sources that we'll be getting a third Dune film with the adaptation of Dune Messiah, that we should be getting the film in 2026 with production starting in August 2025. Denis Villeneuve had mentioned about taking a break before returning to film Dune Messiah, but has recently changed his mind. And I'm certainly hoping that he changes his mind again, because obviously the initial idea is for Denis to finish off his trilogy with the adaptation of Messiah, but there are several other books in the, at least in the Frank Herbert series. I would say I would prefer it if Denis was to finish his adaptation of films with the third book, Children of Dune. I think that would be a better ending point for Denis. Obviously at that point in the series we would sign off with numerous characters who would have completed their narrative journey. Perhaps you could say the blame could be placed partially on the production company. Warner Bros. Only greenlit the second half of Dune after the success of the first half in 2021. Denis had signed on to direct both halves in 2017. It is just a shame that Warner Bros. Didn't have the confidence to greenlit both parts at that time. I'm sure it would have saved a lot of time and money. I mean, I would contrast that to the approach to how New Line Studios took when they greenlit the entire production of the Lord of the Rings films by Peter Jackson, where each film was filmed back to back. I mean, if we had the same approach with the Dune films, who knows, we might have already had Dune Messiah, and then we could have been moving on to the adaptation of Children of Dune, and then potentially moving on to the next set of films. Obviously these production companies, they would like a sort of like a Marvel style series of films coming out on a regular basis and having many years of success. Obviously Marvel's has started to decline recently, but they had good 10 years of excellent results. I mean, there was a recent interview where Denis did say he likes to do one film at a time, so maybe it was never going to be a case of planning the films several back to back, get them all done in a more rapid or maybe more efficient method, which is a little bit of a shame. I mean, there aren't many characters from the first 2 films that wouldn't appear in a potential 4th film. Jessica, Duncan, Gurney, Irulan, they would all appear again, with Vinolda, Leto and Ganima. I mean, I think a teenage Ganima and Leto would work quite well. Of course, in the books, they're about 12 years old. I mean, in the Sci-Fi miniseries, they did age them a little bit, which I think worked perfectly fine. Not making them too old. They're not exactly going to make them in the mid-20s, but I guess that also depends on the quality of actors available. The miniseries, I felt, did strike gold with the casting of James McAvoy as Leto II. So it can be, you get, sometimes you can get good child actors and sometimes you get bad child actors. Maybe just probably make it a little bit safer by aging them a little bit. As long as the same sort of narrative is hit, I don't think it makes that much difference if you age them up maybe 5 years or so. In terms of characters that wouldn't really appear, only major character who wouldn't really appear would be Chaney. She might appear in terms of maybe cameos or through voiceover works when you're using the other memory with Leto and Ganima. Obviously during the events that we're going to get with Dune Messiah, we probably would explore the tail end of the Jihad with Paul, which Paul started at the end of Dune. I mean, I think we would see these parts in the adaptation of Dune Messiah, but see different elements of the Imperium conspiring against Paul and his family, while at the end of Dune Messiah we would have Paul, who was blinded, gone into the desert as essentially a true Fremen. And of course he does come back as the preacher in Children of Dune. So I mean, that it does depend on how you would argue Paul's arc at the end. Would you consider Paul Atreides as essentially has died when he went into the desert, and his return in Children of Dune as a preacher, is he really Paul Atreides, or is he now essentially forsaken his old identity? I think that could be a good adaptation if they bring that through into film. Of course, we would get a final death at the end of Children of Dune, which would be a good way for Timothée Chalamet to sign off the Dune films. I mean, then again, with the way the Dune universe works, you could argue that with Gola's other memory, is Aemon really dead in the Dune series? But I guess that's a video for a future date. I mean, in the original books, characters like Jessica and Gurney do take back seats in the third novel and do return in a supporting role in Children of Dune. I mean, there could be a slight adaptation where they could meld aspects of Children of Dune into an adaptation of Messiah. An adaptation of Messiah would depend upon how Denis Villeneuve wants to do that. I mean, I do like the idea of finishing this phase of Frank Herbert's series before moving on, as well as an adaptation of Children of Dune could explore Paul's legacy within this series. Of course, as mentioned, the Preacher isn't the main focus of the novel, as in with with Dune and Dune Messiah. Paul is obviously one of the prominent characters, if not the main character, while in Children of Dune that focus is shifted more to Leto, and we're getting more insight into Arya and other characters, which would give actors like Anna Taylor-Joy more of a role, which I think they'd be quite keen on if they got that chance. I would also say with Arya, which is the contrast between her pre-born status and what could happen to her, but also how Leto and Ganima are affected by it and how they've adapted in contrast to their aunt. Of course, you could say there's the theory that Children of Dune is the end of the first trilogy of Frank Herbert's Dune novels. Of course, coming after this is God Emperor Dune, which is a drastically different from the previous novels. I could have perfectly understand if Dan decided, you know what, I've adapted the first 3 books, I'm going to move on now. I mean, the universe does jump forward several thousand years, and later the second is the God Emperor. Maybe someone like a Del Toro might be interested in that sort of film, and it wouldn't surprise me if Warner Brothers would want to continue the series with being such a major success. Of course, they are doing a television show at the moment, and if that does well, it might be similar to how HBO is working with Game of Thrones, trying adapting different events and time frames that's happened in the Dune universe. I mean, it would be fascinating if we got a Balerian jihad on film. That would be pretty interesting. But anyway, going back to Children of Dune, would you like to see Denis Villeneuve try and adapt that for cinema? Do you think perhaps Warner Brothers has taken the wrong approach to the Dune films and has taken too long? If they should have done, the full adaptation similar to how New Line Studios. I mean, obviously there's quite a few novels. It is different to Lord of the Rings, so where it is obviously 3 very large novels, while the Dune series, with just Frank's original novels, we've got six to go from. So I can almost understand why Warner Brothers would be hesitant, but I think that might be a stumbling point for the cinematic Dune series. But I'd be interested to know what you think, and of course, if you're new around here, please subscribe. Thank you very much.